Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to another webinar. Just give me a thumbs up in the chat if the audio is coming through clearly. Damn, that was quick. Okay. Cool, cool, cool. Um, Today is another exciting day. We have a guest that will be joining us, but he hasn't joined yet. Um, his name is Mohammed Laher, and he is uh, quite a big name in the development scene in South Africa. He's worked for a number of big corporates, and he's even branched off and started his own development firm that did outsourced work to a few clients, even on the international in the international space. But I'll save the full introduction for him to do when he joins us. In the meantime, we'll get started. I guess we do have some time with just us. So if you have any questions, anything you want to say, anything you want to ask, go for it. Uh, yeah, and BK is here with us as well. So if you got any questions for him, go for it.
Tala, I'm actually particularly excited about this one because the guy is a freelancer and
Mm,
he worked for companies around the world. And this is something I truly, truly admire. And I feel more of our students should think in terms of freelance development rather than in terms of going and getting a job, because the income potential is unlimited. It's incredible the amount of
mm.
opportunities out there.
Yeah, and I'm really excited to talk to him about that because he also had a background working for corporates and then transitioned into a freelancing capacity or a freelancing direction, which is, it'll be interesting to hear from him about why and how he made that change and his views on either one of them, on working with corporate versus working with as a freelancer. Azra says, I wanted to ask about the FNB app project, like when should it be done? Uh, I think you are you referring to the App Academy project? So that we're actually meeting with the App Academy guys today. And this is going to be the first the groundbreaking meeting where we're going to break ground on the actual groundwork that needs to be done. So after today, either later this week or early next week, we'll be calling everyone in who volunteered and assigning you your tasks and roles. Once we have a bit more direction on where the App Academy is going and how it's going to play out, I think we'll probably have a session like a webinar maybe, where we'll just call in everyone that did volunteer and then just explain from a high level what it's going to be like and what the roles are going to be, and then we'll do one-on-ones where each person will be assigned their task. Looking forward to it. Yeah, me too. We've been waiting for this meeting since last week. It's going to be particularly excited, and I am more excited about it because we're going to be working with you guys on this, which is it's such a unique concept, but it's also so exciting. It's going to be fun. I think that we're gonna have a good time with this. And if there's anything specific, we should do like some guidelines. Yeah, so all of that we'll discuss with you guys once we have a bit of clarity. What qualifications do we need to join the FNB app program? Uh, Nothing really. If you are keen on joining, on being a part of the App Academy, just let us know and we'll have a one-on-one conversation with you and find out where we can fit you in. But for starters, even if you are an IT varsity student studying one of our courses, you basically have the knowledge that we're gonna need for a lot of the roles that we're gonna be putting you guys in for this App Academy. Some of the content that the students are going to be taught is going to be similar to what you guys have already done. And so you'll be able to help them out from a support role. There's going to be roles with system support, logging in, accessing their accounts, things like that. There's going to be some project management roles, just to oversee the operations with the various teams. So yeah, will talk to us. Let us know what you're good at. If you have any prior experience in any fields, if you have any other qualifications, and we'll put you in. We've got a spot for everyone, and we'll try to give as many of you guys a position as possible. Such a great learning experience as well to work with you guys. Yeah, and that's another reason it adds like another level of excitement for us because number one, it's an opportunity for us to work again with the App Academy guys. Number two, it's an incredible opportunity for our students to get involved and get experience. This is something that now you can add to your resume, to your portfolios, and to your CVs. So it's this is the most exciting App Academy for us. Although I think we've been involved with this will be our third one so far. I don't think any of them have gathered this much excitement with the internal IT varsity team. And I can't wait to get you guys involved and start having meetings with you guys, assigning roles, getting feedback. It's gonna be fun. Is there a link that we can use to join this academy? Is it virtual? Yeah, it is going to be largely virtual. I know they do have premises in Johannesburg where they do some of the classes, but we're gonna try to make it as virtual as possible. So the learning is gonna be virtual, and all of the guest speakers that we're gonna have on board are gonna be streamed virtually as well. So you'll be able to, if you want to attend from a student's as a student and do the App Academy as a student, you'll be able to join in from anywhere. Same goes for those that want to participate. Um, Most of the work is going to be remote. So you don't need to go to either Johannesburg or come to our offices here in Durban. Wherever you are in the world, as long as you have an internet access, you log in at a certain time from certain time to certain time on a daily basis, you're going to be good.
Tala, our guest is running a bit late, but he said he'll be joining in the next minute or so.
Yeah, perfect. Cool. I'm enjoying the one-on-one interactions. Any other questions, guys? Not even specifically about the App Academy or feedback for us even on your course material so far. Let us know that this is largely what these webinars are about. It's partly about discussing new topics that aren't in the course, introducing you to new concepts, introducing you to these guests that we get on board. But it's also just to have these interactions with you guys. Because, I mean, to be completely honest, working remotely and studying remotely can get a bit lonely at times. So this is just to break that monotony and jump in a room with a bunch of people and just have a conversation. Do you know of Pretoria Learning Academy? Yes, yes, I am very familiar with Pretoria Learning Academy. They are one of our partners, in fact. Um, and yeah, many of their students studied with us and completed some courses with us. I'm actually studying through them using the IT Varsity. Oh, lovely. Okay, cool. So you are one of the referees. Cool. I think so far we probably had about, I think just over 10 students from Pretoria Learning Academy. A really, really fantastic institute. in the chat, just pop in what module you're currently in on the IT varsity courses. I'm curious to see that where everyone is placed. BK, do you see the message from Rumesa? She says, I wanted to share that I had such a valuable interaction with Mr. Asmal last week from the webinar via email. He even requested my CV. I'm so grateful for these webinars and the
That's
exposure we get.
fantastic.
That
That's
is fantastic.
fantastic. Ramesa, you're playing your cards well. If
Hmm.
you get a job with him, it's fantastic. I mean, Al Baraka Bank is a very sought after workplace. People love working there and they got a very high retention rate. It's a good company to work for. Tala, I think our guest has arrived.
Oh, yes, I see him. Walaikum salam, Mohammed. Jazakallah so much for joining us today and offering your time, mm, offering to share some of your knowledge and experience with our students. We really, really do appreciate this.
Mhm. Where do
Um,
we start?
yeah, I did a brief introduction to you, but I don't think that I did your personality and your experience justice. So I mean, let's start there. Just,
So, yeah, so I've been in development for over 10 years. Started off at a small company, went through a few corporates after that, and now I'm kind of on my own, contracting for another company overseas. That's currently where I'm at from a career point of view currently. And the roles I've gone through with the roles of developer, technical lead, solution architect, stuff like that. And recently been quite involved with cloud development, been .NET developer all my life, but have played with other frameworks even when necessary. As devs, you tinker around all the time with stuff you're unfamiliar with as well. Don't really,
mm,
yeah. So you play around with whatever technologies come your way. Um, so that's pretty much where my career went. And now recently I've gone like on my own. And that I think has been a big step. It's a bit different because it's not like it's not like you're working for someone where you have leave days and all of that. All of those become
hmm.
non-existent. But otherwise, you left to be a bit more independent and free to play a bit more with different technologies, speak to different people, get to know different experiences and all of that stuff. So that's pretty
Yeah.
much me.
Yeah, I mean that's fantastic, and that's something I wanted to pick your brain about a little bit because I feel like it's very relevant for IT varsity students and our culture. We promote this idea of working as a freelance developer because it does come with its challenges, which I'm sure you can tell us a little bit about, but it also comes with so many opportunities that it expands your horizons. I mean, you could work for companies anywhere in the world. Um, but I feel like you have a unique perspective on this because you have a background working in a corporate environment and then transitioned into and moved towards working as a freelancer.
Yeah. And I think one important thing to note, like especially these days from experience, I've learned this. Whether you work as a permanent job or you work as a freelancer, a few years ago people would say, no, you're more secure if you're working for a corporate, for example, than if you're freelancing. But I don't think that's the case anymore because
Mm,
there's so many cases where nowadays, like I've seen people get retrenched overnight from a corporate and they basically left with nothing. But the freelancer, as a freelancer, you're more in control of that, and also the risk is the same. I feel that's my opinion with regards to transitioning between permanent to freelancing.
yeah, and so you personally, what inspired you and motivated you to move from a corporate to working as a freelancer?
Um, one of the aspects that did influence me was corporate retrenchments, but
Mm,
also the fact that I wanted to learn more, be able to service more clients and being able to choose which clients I want to service. Because one of my objectives is to try and service clients that have a positive impact on the world, right? Not just big corporates that are just basically doing things just to continue whatever it is. The clients that actually have impact. And also while doing that and seeing how corporate works and all of that, I wanted to be able to do highly ethical business to make sure that we do, like for example, changing the mindset of things. Like for example, take a simple thing like for example, billing a client for work being done, right? So what typically would happen in a lot of companies, for example, say you bill a client for 20 hours of work, because it's a lot of times in hours, and you end up finishing it in 5, right? Now, for me, that's not ideally ethical because of the fact that now you're saying that you're doing 20 hours, but you're only doing 5. Whereas if you just change your business model and, for example, say you're charging this much for this piece of work and this is your time limit for this piece of work, I think that's more accurate. And so small things like that, like those things, I think influence my decision to go on my own way. I have more control, making sure that it's in line with my ethos and all of that.
Cool. And I mean, is it something that you feel is worth it? I mean, obviously for you, but would you give that advice to anyone else in the dev space?
Yes, it is. It is very worth it to go to freelancing. But given that, I'm not discounting the experience I gained with working with others, working in teams, working in corporate. You can't discount that experience. But at the same time, I would have hoped to start earlier and start and had more experience. Like even running a business, for example, that experience. I think that experience can only be gained if you take the step and decide to take it forward.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, so your I mean, a point that you just touched on, right? Your development skills, your tech skills is obviously going to form that solid foundation for you. But on a general level, what other skills should students or anyone looking to become a freelancer work on and hone so that they are ready when they eventually make that step?
Think business skills is important, as well as like kind of management skills, so that you can, if you're doing a project, you can manage yourself and also when you get to the point, manage others as well
Mm.
adequately. I think those two skills, business and the management skills, is important.
We have a question from one of our students. Romesa asks, can you share some strategies that you use to find new clients and grow your freelancing business? I'm curious since we all know how popular the IT space is from a business perspective.
Let me just think about this question carefully. So you feel like this business.
I think that's a question every business person is asking.
Yeah. So the main thing is to introduce some kind of some kind of, well, on one end is the expertise you need, the skills to show what skills you have. And on the other end, it's the way you approach people, the way you talk to people, like that, the way you communicate, that influences people to be convinced that you are capable and you can do it. Because the biggest challenge is, and I can understand from a perspective of a client, they want to be kind of sure that you are capable. So I think having evidence of work as well as being
Mm,
able to communicate effectively are your best strategies for growing your client base and also yeah, like basically communicating. It's the main thing.
mm. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you 100% there. IT varsity students, again, you're hearing the importance of that portfolio. And I think with every guest that we get, every one of them seems to emphasize that point that you have to show what you can do. And so I hope that it really emphasizes the importance that you need to put on your portfolio and really put effort into making it perfect. Uh, Azra, sorry, I missed your question. Could you please explain what a freelancer is? Well, I mean, a freelancer is basically a developer that doesn't work a full-time job for a corporate, but rather they take on their own clients and, choose who they want to work with rather. Then we have one more question from William. He says, what's your biggest challenge as a freelancer?
The biggest challenge points back to the previous question. Getting those clients and growing the business and making sure you get more clients on board. It takes a lot of the mental effort and also physical effort to do. And that's your biggest challenge, getting those clients on board and convincing them that you can do the job in the best way.
Mm. It's like somewhat ironic that the biggest challenge of working as a freelance developer isn't the development part. It's everything
Yeah.
that happens
Yeah.
around it.
Yeah, when you get like grow in your development space, that becomes your least worry. It's the soft skills, the business skills that become your stress.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, I 100% agree with that. With any business you get into, or any trade, the actual skill, and generally a person like, for example, who getting into freelance developer, they're 10 out of 10 developer. Their skills are honed, they know what they're doing. But when you get into the space and you realize there's just so much more going on. Keenan asked, how can we deal with clients that tend to be really stubborn and difficult without being mean or rude to them? And how often do you come across these kinds of clients?
You do get those clients, but what's important, I think, is to have your paperwork in order and do it properly from a legal perspective, because you have to protect yourself from these clients. And normally you would try to basically negotiate around these clients. But you still need the legal yardstick to make sure that if they do really now exceed the limits and bounds, you have some recourse. Because if what has happened is you deal with a client and you don't do the paperwork properly, and then things go south, and then you in a catch-22 now, we're in a situation where, unfortunately, and it's a necessary thing to do. Unfortunately, if you're in a situation like that, it's essential to sometimes fire your client. Like you can't run after business that's going to basically be toxic to you and just run you down. Sometimes you just have to let go and tell the client, okay, we're going to move on from this. I prefer not dealing with it. Simple as that.
Mhm. That's another skill that you need working as a freelancer. It's now the people skills,
Yeah,
and dealing with toxic people.
yeah.
Yeah, and knowing when to break things off. Wait, good question from William again. What services do you offer as a freelancer? Like, what's your specializations?
So it's a bit of development, a bit of consulting, and also at the same time, I'm trying to expand that portfolio to include other related services, just to expand that reach. But mostly development and consulting. So based on my experiences, advising which way the project should go, or how can they fix certain things, stuff like that. Because that's, I think, one of the biggest problems. A lot of people will have a lot of developers with them, but they will be having and good developers, but because of the lack of those management skills, sometimes they need help to just be guided along and come to some kind of more optimum way of working.
Hmm, lovely.
So I have a question, Mohammed, for you. I don't know if you've seen me. I'm quietly listening in on the conversation here. By the way, I'm back in Port Elizabeth on the 12th of August. I'll be doing a series of talks at schools, and I'm also doing a parents' workshop and a teachers' workshop. So I'm looking forward to being back there.
No, when you come this time, we should meet up.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So my question is this, right? And this is, I need my students to perk up their ears here because of this question. The IT freelancing space is a very, very crowded space, right? Globally. I mean, between India and Bangladesh, I think they own half the market. How do you differentiate yourself? How do you stand out in a crowded market like this?
What I've experienced is that there's a lot of freelancers out there from different countries, whatever it is. But the biggest pain point that people have is effective communication, right? Because sometimes you, for example, you want a bicycle, right? This person tells you a motorbike, which not exactly what you wanted, which can be frustrating as well. So I think the most important thing is to be able to effectively communicate and also understand the culture, especially of international clients, and be able to work with those cultures. Because working with a variety of countries, you realize that every single country has a different culture, a different way of working, different methods of communication. So if you bridge that gap of communication, I think you there already you send a competitive advantage.
Phenomenal. And I think it's also the things that you mentioned earlier, that fairness in your business practices, where if I'm dealing with you, I know if I'm paying you for 5 hours, I'm getting 5 hours of work, and it's not, uh, it's not. I mean, there's too much of that. There's too much of people being taken for a ride. Just the other day, I was in a conversation where they wanted an initiation fee of 10,000 rands for doing some work for us, and I'm like, what is this initiation fee? Happy to pay it, but tell me what it is. And they couldn't really describe what it's all about. And I'm like, okay, you know what? I don't think I'm comfortable dealing with these people. So that definitely counts. Tala, I see there's a
Yeah.
question from Ramesa again.
Yeah, we got three questions that came through. Let's go through them top to bottom. Hopefully, we have enough time. Um, so the first one is, as students have never worked in the coding business, how would we go about making a name for ourselves and stand out from amongst the rest? Because clients wouldn't want to deal with someone who just graduated.
I think I did touch on that earlier, but I'll touch on it
Mm,
again. So I think the main thing is to showcase what you've done. That's the most effective method of showing. Like, for example, if you show someone something, they can see it, they can visualize it. It's easier for you to convince them than just talking and trying to convince them.
mm. Absolutely. And I mean, I think to add on to that, sometimes, like, especially when you're just starting out, to do some work for free, just for a small business, just so you have that reference and that experience, it
Yeah.
goes a long way.
Yeah,
And I
but
think
also try not to get misused, because it happens a lot with freelancers as well. Certain small businesses will misuse a freelancer just to get some gain out of it and not actually give the exposure needed.
Mm,
absolutely. And I think I'll add to what you said, Mohammed, that, even when you are applying for a full-time job, whether it's freelancing or a full-time job, today people are gone wary about just you having a certificate or a degree or something, and, you're sitting there in an interview. In fact, we had Hamza Asmal on last week. He's the IT manager or digitization manager at Al Baraka Bank. And he said, what I look for is the ability to create solutions to do, rather than that some stuff. And I think, and it's something I emphasize to my students. And the other thing is, guys, you are creating a portfolio, and you are displaying the work that we are asking you to do, but nothing stops you from doing something over and above and putting that onto your portfolio. Remember, that portfolio website doesn't belong to ID Varsity. It belongs to you. So build your own pet projects, your own solutions, deploy them to GitHub, and link them to your portfolio, and you'll see that you'll be able to demand good rates and good salaries just by showing this to people. Guys, I have to bounce out. I've got a radio interview now. I wish I could stay on. Moment. I'll catch up with you, inshallah. It's good to catch up. Tala, I'll hand it back to you, and I'm going to leave.
lovely. Yeah, we just got a few more questions and then we'll wrap up ourselves, Mom. I don't want to take too much of your time.
No problem.
Okay. This is actually a lovely question. It says, how does one go about transitioning to freelance work? And would you recommend starting in a corporate environment to gain skills? And okay, so that's the end of their first question. And then they have a follow-up, is how does one polish their resume to attract potential employers? So let's go to the first one. Would you recommend starting off in a corporate and then transitioning?
Like I said earlier, right? I don't discount that experience I
Mm,
got from corporates, right? But also, the first company I worked for was not a corporate company. The first company I worked for was a small company, and the experience I gained there was, to be honest, it wasn't the greatest salary or whatever it is, but the experience I gained there, basically, I was involved from start to finish on development, right? Which basically pulled me up to be able to be hired by corporate. So and corporate taught me a different discipline, I would say, because the thing is, like in corporate, there's more policies in order and all of that stuff. There's red tape, and it's important to learn all of this, the red tape and all of that. So I think to start off in a small company and also to do a lot of work in a corporate, there is benefit. I wouldn't say there's no benefit to it, but don't get caught up thinking your job is secure and just sit down and relax, thinking you set for life. Doesn't work that way, unfortunately. So it is beneficial. It's not necessary, but it's beneficial to start off in an environment that's more controlled.
Hmm. So I mean, just want to ask about something you mentioned about working in a small company. You got experience through the whole development process. Like, so that compared to working in a corporate, you feel like a corporate is more like you boxed into your little
Yeah.
cubicle, and then that's what all you focus on.
Yeah. And also with corporate, for example, you want to do deployment of code. You can't just go and go deploy the code. You must go through a whole change control process, all of those formal processes.
Uh-huh.
And that teaches you a bit of discipline. Like you can't just do what you want. You have to justify everything you do and to give the reason why you're doing it. And so it makes you think a bit instead of just doing. I think that's
Yeah.
the
I think probably what the corporate on experience level lacks in actual development stuff because you're boxed in, it makes up for in the business things because you see how
exactly.
a business on that scale operates. And I mean, although we can pick faults with the corporates for that, eh, a company of that scale needs to have those kinds of policies in
Yeah.
place. Otherwise, things just go crazy.
Yeah.
So there are
And
lessons to be learned
and
there.
when you freelance, if you bring some of those elements in, you can avoid the issues of clients being difficult and whatever it is. Because you can because corporate takes a lot of it takes a lot of focus on the legal side of it, for example, which I think is very important, especially if you're a freelancer, to make sure that you're legally protected.
Hmm. So we got one more question,
Yeah.
and
Just
then we'll
second
wrap
part of
up.
the question that I want to answer quickly.
Oh, right,
How
right,
does
right.
one polish their resume to attract potential employers? The other day, funny enough, I was looking at my own CV, right? And I realized that I have minimum personal information on there, but what do I do highlight on there is experience and skills. Because of that, I had a lot of people get into me and say, look, yeah, we like your CV, right? I don't go too deep into personal information. I rather showcase exactly what I can do and what projects I've worked on previously, stuff like that. So even if it's a not paid for project, even if you become a contributor on one of the public GitHub repositories, for example, put it on your CV because stuff like that allows people to actually see who you are through what you code.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a golden bit of advice right there. And that will go a long way whether you're trying to get into a company or whether you're working as a freelancer. I think that that experience goes a long way. Okay, and then Rumesa asks, could you possibly share how the rates for your services compare between working in a corporate setting and freelancing, and what factors actually influence those rates? No need to give us figures. I'm just curious to know about the differences.
When it comes to working in corporate, for example, right? Whatever rate they're paying you, right? They charge the client like 4 to 5 times at that rate, right? And they only give you like that 1/5 or one or quarter of the rate. When you go freelancing, you're not going to get corporate rates. That's for sure, right? But you can get more than the rate they give you, because there's no middleman now. You're dealing directly.
Mm,
So if, for example, for argument's sake, you can get maybe 1.5 to double of what you would get in corporate, depending on the client. Because obviously, because you're freelancing and you're starting out, you kind of drop your rates a bit just to get that business. But at the same time, you will be getting better more because corporate's always going to have to make a profit on whatever they're paying you.
right, right. So I guess also the more your portfolio grows, the more experience you have, the higher your rates can go. So that's something that's going to affect your rates.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, Mohammed, Jazakallah so much for joining us. I think we'll conclude this meeting now. Um, Is there any way for our students to get in touch with you, either an inbox or an email address they can send an email to, just if they have any questions or want to get a little bit more advice from you?
Yeah, no, not a problem. Will you share this with them or should I share it in the chat?
If you can put it in the chat, that'll be perfect. Of course, we won't make this public, but
No
just
problem.
for our students who are
Okay.
who are
Just
keen on
email that
learning more.
address and you can take it from there. And also, I don't know if yeah, so if sometimes there is like extra work and stuff, if students want to gain experience, if they send me the skill set, I can probably use their help at times when there is extra work that's available. Obviously, I'll be maintaining and supervising to make
Mhm.
sure it gets done correctly. But that's also an option for the students. I don't know if that's fine with you.
No, absolutely, and I'd encourage all of you to try and make use of that opportunity. This is a
Yeah,
fantastic opportunity, and it could go a long way for your experience. So
yeah,
definitely, I'd encourage everyone
yeah,
to reach out.
yeah. I see a comment there. Afwan, no problem. And it's actually a privilege to be here. And I hope I relayed my message correctly and I hope I said everything accurately. And any shortcomings, please just apologies for that.
Perfect. Yeah, and it was really a privilege having you on board, and thank you so much for extending that opportunity to our students. I really do appreciate that. But guys, I see not really getting any more questions, so yeah, we'll leave it there. Thank you all so much for joining, and yeah, hope to see you all next week. Bye, everyone.
Right.